Good day, I'm Bev Eagy and welcome to Tea Time. Today we're going to make Pavlova. Now Pavlova is a much loved dessert in Australia and it's named after a famous Russian ballerina. In 1935 there was a Perth chef who invented this. Now I lived in Sydney for 20 years and there's two stories. There's a story that it was invented in New Zealand and they claim it, but I only know the Australian story, so I'll tell you that one. Anna Pavlova, she took an ocean liner down to tour the continent in Australia, and it was a huge thing. She went to all the cities, and when she got to Perth, a chef named Bert decided to invent this dessert in her honor, and it's supposed to be lighter than air and shaped like a tutu. And so when she danced, this was the dessert that they had afterwards, and it's just been it's a beautiful thing. You can get pavlovas. Everyone makes a pav and they fill it with this tropical fruit, and we're going to do that today. So it's basically a very moist meringue, and I've got some wonderful eggs here. I have goose eggs, which is something I'm just getting into. I buy a lot of almost everything I can get fresh and local. I do that, and I have a friend named Kim, and she supplies me with some wonderful eggs. I had these similar eggs for Easter, and they're beautiful, naturally, this blue and green color. Aren't they gorgeous? You don't even have to dye Easter eggs. And I tell you one thing about the fresh eggs, the yolks are just vibrantly orange. They're so good. And you'll crack a regular egg and a fresh farm egg, and one looks kind of insipid, and the other one's just like kapow, just bright orange and delish. And we also have some nice brown ones, so I've got a nice variety. This is the little basket I kept my eggs in Australia. Now, whenever you do a dish that calls for eggs in any kind of baking situation, it's a really good idea to keep them at room temperature, especially with a meringue. If your egg white is room temperature, then it's going to behave and it'll loft up and hold it's way better. So don't get them right out of the fridge. If you're going to do anything with eggs, have them out on the counter until they get to room temp. So I'm going to start on the meringue, and I'm just going to break some eggs. And I think I'm going to do the goose eggs just because they're so fun. One thing, if you're going to use goose eggs, they're pretty much the equivalent of 2 eggs. This and it has a really hard shell. So when you're cracking it, just give it a good whack. Just don't be timid with it. I'm going to just. There we go. Well, let's put the yolk. It's a beautiful big yolk. Come on. Okay, that's most of it. I'm going to save these yolks because they're good for custards. Right now there is a nice amount of egg white, and I'm going to put it in the mixer. And when you do this meringue, I just beat the daylights out of it. So I'm going to put it in. Okay, I've just turned this off. It's almost to the right whip. When it almost gets there, you're going to start putting a scant cup of sugar into the meringue. And what I like to do when I'm baking something that has that this is castor sugar. I like to make it vanilla sugar. And all you do is get a nice jar. This is a really cute one. And just get a nice vanilla pod. You don't have to slice it or get the little seeds out, and just stick it in. And I had one in this before and I just took them out. But so that sugar is already vanilla sugar, but you just put 1 or 2 in there, and within a few hours or like tomorrow, it'll be all full of a nice vanilla flavor. And people think, oh, yours tastes better. Well, this is not a good fit, but never mind. Okay, I want a scant cup. I'm going to use another cup to. Scant just means, when it says that, it just means just under a cup. So you're making a meringue and you're going to bake it really, really slow. And when it depends on the amount of eggs. If you're going to make a huge one and you're going to make a really beautiful display and you do like a dozen egg whites, you might go a whole cup. But I'm doing the equivalent of 6 eggs, so it's a fairly small meringue. And I'm going to start putting the sugar in. There's a few other dry ingredients that we're going to put in as well, but we don't add those right until the end. So as this, I don't know if you can see the meringue, but it's at that kind of floppy stage. So I'm going to turn it back on and just start putting in it incrementally. You just put it a tiny bit at a time. So you don't want to overwhelm it. So get this to pull back together. There we go. And so I'm just going to incorporate this slowly. And don't put the last little bit. The last little bit. I'm going to turn this off just so you can hear me, but I've got some cornstarch, and I have a little bit of cream of tartar. You can go like half a teaspoon, and I'm going to just put a little of each in here, and this just gives it a nice texture, and the cream of tartar will keep it from separating. You want your meringue to separate, so that's in here. And this, I keep it with the sugar, so then when it'll poof up a little bit, it won't. That'll give it some weight.